Let's now welcome Mr. Christopher Rutledge, who is the Executive Director of MACUA-WAMUA Advice Office, joining us now to further this discussion. Christopher, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. Now, your organization typically deals with communities that are affected by various mining issues. In this instance, of course, the South African Human Rights Commission, they're conducting an inquiry in looking into the Limpopo province due to numerous as well as continuous complaints from communities about various rights violations that are related to some of the mining activities in that province. Will you be joining this fight, and just how far are you able to assist in such matters?
Thank you very much for having us and for asking for our opinion on this. So essentially, we're very disappointed in the fact that the South African Human Rights Commission is once again having a hearing on what is, by all accounts, very, very serious matters. The Human Rights Commission has, as far back as 2017, done a national investigation into the impacts of mining. And in their report that they released then in 2018, they made a number of recommendations which have not been met. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy and the mining companies have just basically ignored the report of the Human Rights Commission. So we're very disappointed that a Chapter 9 institution that should, according to the Constitution and according to the law, have a significant right to insist upon certain things being done to protect the human rights of communities. And the Human Rights Commission has just not done it. So what they are doing here is they're again putting on a show that looks as if they are dealing with the issues that communities face. But from our experience, nothing is going to come of it. The Human Rights Commission has just been a bit of a disappointment as a section or a Chapter 9 institution, because, like I say, it has failed to hold mining companies to account. It has failed to hold government to account.
Christopher, I wanted to ask you, I mean, the South African Human Rights Commission here says that some mining companies just keep shunning them and they are non-compliant. And I just want to understand then, if not the relevant authorities that are supposed to be enforcing, of course, cooperation, who should we then blame? Should we blame government? Should we blame Chapter 9 institutions? Should we blame the mines? Who should we put the blame solely on?
Look, I think there is a collective blame to be had here. But I think we should definitely start to look at the Chapter 9 institution like the South African Human Rights Commission. Now, the Commission is very quick to attack individuals or to take individuals to court when they make racist statements, for example, which we applaud and absolutely correct. And yet, when it comes to the state, to government and to mining companies, the ones who are really at the heart of the structural inequality that mining-affected communities experience. And you should know that mining-affected communities are in dire straits. People are living in abject poverty under harsh conditions where pollution is rampant. In fact, now in Harmony Mine in the Free State, we have a community that is living underwater because the mine refuses to speak to them and refuses to engage. So when a Chapter 9 institution like the Human Rights Commission, who has a constitutional mandate at its disposal, it has the legal might of the South African state at its disposal, refuses to hold either government or mining companies to account, then we've got to start to point the finger at the Human Rights Commission and say, what on earth is the purpose of the Human Rights Commission? Are they there to get big fat salary checks at the end of the month and to make it look as if they are dealing with human rights? Or are they going to actually grasp this bull by the horn and start to hold mining companies and government? The DMRE has been sitting with amendments to the MPRDA, the Mining Petroleum Resources Development Act, since the Human Rights Commission published its report in 2018, where it said the DMRE must change the law so that communities are better protected. We are in 2024 today. the DMRE has still not done what it is required to do by the Chapter 9 institution. And there are no consequences for it. Government can just walk where they want to, do what they want to, and businesses, they don't even listen to the Human Rights Commission because it's a toothless dog. And yet the Constitution has affirmed the rights of the Chapter 9 institution, has affirmed its tools that it has at its disposal. But yet we still see that they have these commissions, which means nothing to people. It's a waste of money if they are not going to act and hold the polluters, the mining companies, and those who are violating human rights, if they're not going to hold them to account.
Those are very important points you make, Christopher, there, because we know, some mines don't deliver upon their SLP or social labor plans mandate, and often misleading communities just to obtain their prospecting rights and actually are never held to account, as you've just alluded to. So maybe talk to us about some of the biggest human rights violations committed by some of these mines that you have on your data or have observed, and Christopher, and how do then communities who might need your assistance actually reach you? We're talking about issues of dust, of blasting inside the 500 meters within communities, as well as issues resulting from that, of course, misleading government to get those prospecting rights. Then we have that issue of illegal mining that surfaces as a direct result of that.
Look, I can point, we've got caseloads now of information and data from communities, and each one of them are deserving of proper response. And unfortunately, wherever we go, the DMRE are basically closed doors. The mining companies refuse to speak to communities. And the Chapter 9 institutions are failing to live up to their constitutional mandate. Like I was saying, just now, in Harmony Park in the Free State, Sibanya Stillwater mines there, they have flooded the community's houses. Every year when it rains, this community is flooded with toxic wastewater, as well as with sewage wastewater, because the two water processes they are so overwhelmed that they, you have both sewage and toxic water filling these communities' homes. And over the last 3 days, the community has been protesting at Harmony Mine to say, listen, we need a solution. Please speak to us. There has been reports on this matter. There has been investigations on this matter. And yet the mine arrogantly says, we will not speak to you. And instead they call in the police, who then start shooting at the community. And the community then has to respond with violence. And then the matter escalates. Next week, more communities are coming out in protest in the Free State. And this is the thing that we are saying, that communities are desperately angry at being left to be marginalized and abused by mining companies with no state protection. In fact, the state acts on behalf of the mining companies. These Chapter 9 institutions turn a blind eye or don't use the authority that they have to protect communities. And so what is left to communities when they've been asking time and time again for assistance, to be heard, to be treated as people, for a little bit of Ubuntu, and yet we don't get that. And so what is left to the communities? They are coming now out in numbers in the next week. You'll see we'll be releasing a press statement to announce that protest. But we know that the mine is going to use the police to try and stop them. But we're saying you cannot deny our right to protest. Communities have a right to voice their concerns. Are you expecting communities to live under these conditions, where their human rights are violated on a daily basis, and then to say nothing? That cannot be right. Our constitution should protect the right to protest. And our institutions of government, the institutions of the state, like the Human Rights Commission, need to stop sitting in fancy hotels and having conferences in which they mollycoddle business as if, business is going to do the right thing simply because they were asked to do it. Business has to be forced to do it. They are a profit-making institution, and they will not do it out of the goodness of their heart. They are only going to do it if the law compels them or if the people compels them. Now, if the law is not going to act, then the people must act. And, in a time when we are trying to build unity in the country, in a time when we're trying to plot a way forward out of this quagmire of poverty and unemployment,
all right,
we do not need more conflict. We need the government and the state institutions to step up to the plate.
All right. And in closing, very quickly, Christopher, I mean, some of the data you collected through some of your social audits, where can people get hold of that? I mean, we also know you've tried various engagements with government through some means like an open letter to the DMRE itself, as well as the Portfolio Committee, on the exclusion of communities as core stakeholders in post-mining engagement. So how is your current relationship with them? And more importantly, do mines themselves afford you some type of opportunity in order to have a relationship with them, which will basically save them a lot cost-wise if crucial engagements such as some of the issues raised here are actually explored before any mining takes place?
Indeed. So firstly, let me say that the report, our baseline report and our 2022 report are available on our website at www.macua.org.za. Under social audits, you'll find it under that tab. And then our 2024 report is in the process. We're just finalizing and checking the data and putting the report together. And we hope to release it either later this year, or we will release it at when the mining indaba comes around in February of next year. We're just trying to look at how that timing goes. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we do appeal to mining companies especially to stop the arrogance, because their arrogance are only going to lead to violence. Communities are not going to accept this arrogant attitude. We have a number of communities who over the last month or two have been sleeping outside mining companies just to get an answer. And then the mining company just flatly refuses. We are very glad to say that the DMRE, we wrote to the Director General of the DMRE to talk to us about a report that they were supposed to have delivered in October of last year. Yeah. 8 months later, they still haven't delivered the report. And so we've asked them to sit down with us to explain why that report has not been published and what we can do to work with them to proceed on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Christopher, for this eye-opening discussion. Hopefully, we'll get to talk more and explore some of the different and other challenges within this sector. Thank you so much. That is Mr. Christopher Rutledge there, who is from MACUA-WAMUA Advice Office.